Thanks for joining the Real Mom Gang podcast, where 4 new moms bonded over their obsession with baby classes and keeping it real. Here's your hosts, Amanda, Chantel, and Jenna.
Hello. Hi.
So, we're so excited today. We actually have a guest from Idaho down in the USA. Her name is Jordan Blair, and she's from Dreamful Podcast. She has 2 little girls that we'll hopefully get some info on today. She wasted 7 years of her life in an accounting firm, which you actually have something in common with Amanda on.
I wasted 6 years in an accounting firm.
And she also married a wine salesman who she says is hotter than her, but she's pretty hot, so I'm not sure about that.
I'm not even sure if that's possible.
Yeah, we might need to see a picture of him. So welcome, Jordan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So let's just jump right into it. Oh, no, actually, first we have to mention, in the intro we say 4 new moms. Poor Lauren is not feeling good today, so she is down and out. But the nice thing is there's 3 more of us to cover for her, so you're kind of an honorary gang member today.
Yeah.
I'll fill in.
So Dreamful Podcast, we have been listening to it, and it is awesome. What kind of made you start the podcast?
So my daughter, I kind of got her started on podcasts, on like story podcasts, and she liked to listen to them to go to sleep, but all of the bedtime story podcasts for kids are like 7 to 13 minutes long, and I don't know what child goes to sleep that fast. Mine don't. And some of them had like really bright, exciting things going on, and it just I kind of got like a little frustrated trying to find one. I mean, there's a lot of really great ones, but I got a little frustrated, so I was like, well, I guess I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. Well, that was a great idea because, like you said, who can get their kid to bed in that short of time? So having like a longer story and your voice. Your voice is so soothing. Like I was going to sleep. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
My husband and I listened to one in the morning while we were making breakfast one day, and we had to turn it off because we were like getting tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I made it for kids, but I would say that 90% of my audience is people between the age of like 22 and 50.
That's awesome.
It's pretty crazy, actually. I don't know. I mean, I think everyone likes to listen to stories to go to sleep. And,
it helps you shut your brain off.
It really does.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
I listened to yours one night with my daughter, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is making me tired. And, like, I usually have to listen to some sort of, like, soothing spa music or something like that to get myself to sleep. So listening to a story like that is perfect, too. So, yeah.
Thanks, yeah.
Great.
And then how do you find the stories that you want to start recording? Do you come up with them? Is it a book that you're reading, or?
Well, basically, what I want to do is I want to feature writers eventually. It's been really hard trying to find writers, but I want to feature stories by writers. I wrote my own story for it. It's the Butterfly Spirit episode, and I wrote that because my daughter kept catching butterflies and she kept killing them, so I wrote a story about that, about a little girl that goes chasing butterflies off in the woods, and it's my most popular episode, which was really cool.
Yeah.
That happened. So I'm kind of thinking like, maybe I need to write some more, but the other ones are just kind of like classics that I really enjoy, and honestly, Disney has been pumping out so much stuff, and so I just kind of will also look for releases of things that kids are going to be really into. Like in January they're releasing Dr. Dolittle, so the week before that I'm going to be doing a Dr. Dolittle.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
So,
and same with the Frozen one this last week.
Exactly, yeah, because Frozen came out, and it happened to fall on my episode drop date, and I was going to do the Velveteen Rabbit, but then when I saw the lineup, I was just like, oh no, I have to do the Snow Queen.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure. It
of
worked
course.
out great.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Frozen.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had. So have you gone to the new Frozen then with your daughters?
Yeah. I went that weekend and it lived up. I loved it.
Was it so? Lots of times when they do a second, like a sequel or whatever, it's not near as good. Is it pretty good?
Yes. It's kind of interesting though. I think, how do I put this? It was more mature than what I was expecting.
Oh.
There's a lot of growth and transformation in the character arcs, and I was really surprised at, the first one was kind of like silly and out there, and the second one was really moving and beautiful, and it was just a very interesting transition, and it was cool. But my daughter loved it, so that's good.
See, my daughter's too young for that movie,
Yeah.
but I even want to go see it just myself. And I can't wait until she's older and I can actually go to these Disney movies with her.
Yeah.
I find that too, they tend to make it so that it appeals to adults
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, so they'll have adult humor in it sometimes that
Yeah,
the
exactly.
kids don't understand, but you get it, and then it's funny to watch. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a few of those. They always have those sprinkled in, the little nods to adults.
Yeah.
My husband had to stay home with our 2-year-old while I went with my daughter, and so he's actually going to see it tomorrow with my mom and my aunt.
Aw,
Nice.
that's amazing. I hope he's bringing some wine.
Yeah.
And speaking of your children, how old are they?
So my oldest is 7 and my youngest is 2.
All right, and you're going into those terrible twos. How's that?
Yeah, I am. People always say no, they're terrific twos. And with my first daughter, it was just terrific. She was so easy, just so easy. And then I had my second one, and polar opposite, and she just sends me into a place just indescribable. Oh man, I have to put myself in timeout sometimes with her.
So who does she take? Who does her personality take after more, you or your husband?
Oh, well, so that's kind of the thing is we were kind of flip-flopping, oh, she got that from you. No, she got that from you. And we just kind of realized that he was just one of those really crazy kids. I mean, just absolutely insane, and would just I heard horror stories from his mom forever about him.
Oh my God.
And so she got his mischievous, just crazy energy, and she's just all over the place, getting into everything like a little hurricane. But she also got my hot temper.
Oh, fun. She got a good mix.
So Josh is my husband Josh, he's very sweet and funny, and I am kind of hot-headed and I'm very passionate about things and loud, and she got that horrible hybrid of the two.
It's so funny how your children could be so different from each other.
Yeah.
I know my mother-in-law said with her, my husband and his brother, she's my first one, perfect kid, napped all the time, would put himself to sleep, loved reading books, would play quietly with his toys in the corner. And then she's your husband, anything he could get into, he would. She'd have the dishwasher open, trying to unload the dishes. He'd climb into the dishwasher, start pulling everything out of the dishwasher. She's I couldn't get him off of the tables. He'd jump off of everything. He tried to jump off of their deck thinking he could land a 5-foot fall to the ground. And she's just oh my God, he was a handful.
Well, they say that the last child you have is the one that's the biggest handful, because that kind of makes you turn off your machine and makes you not want to have anymore. It's having that crazy psycho kid. So do you plan to have a third, or are you stopping now?
Well, here's the thing is I've always wanted a little boy. I had so many friends in high school that were guys, and we'd go over to their house after school, and they'd be taller than their mom, and they'd give her like a big hug, and there's just all this love. And so I always wanted a little boy.
Yeah.
And I have 2 girls, and they're both pretty much Xerox copies of me, and I'm a lot, so I really feel bad for my husband. And people keep asking, like, oh, you gotta try for, a third so that you can have your boy, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah. What happens if you have 3 of you?
That 3 girls. I can't do it.
That's actually what happened with my sister. She had a girl and then had another girl and then said, we want to try for a boy, and then ended up having another girl. And her boy was her 4th one, so you might get a boy on your 4th.
Yeah, no.
Or you might not.
She's like, yeah, no.
My crazy one has cured me. I'm not super nurturing. I don't really like the baby stage, which is very weird. Most moms do. I do not. It's like the best thing in the world for me when they start walking and getting themselves breakfast.
More independent.
Getting themselves ready for school in the morning. I'm all about that. I cannot wait until my girls are old enough that I can take them out for like dinner and manicures.
Yeah.
Go on dates.
Well, they're now at their ages, like you're probably either done with diapers or close to being done with diapers, and
my first one, like the just perfect. I love her. She's just wonderful. I love both my girls.
Well, she's definitely your favorite.
I think,
secretly.
I don't want to name favorites.
No.
But I think I like her more at this point. But my oldest, she spoiled me. I didn't even have to potty train her. She was just like, yep, I'm gonna do potty, and she was just fully potty trained at 18 months.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
She never once wet the bed. She never did anything. And my second one, she's gonna be 3 in June, and it is a battle getting her to try to go potty in the toilet. It's rough, man, and I don't know how to potty train because my first one just did it for me.
Yeah. You gotta get your older one to teach the younger one.
Yeah.
She does.
Don't you want to be a big girl?
Yeah. Well, and I kind of I've gotten a little bit of traction because I started having the youngest come into the bathroom with me and just watch me go potty, and I'm talking to her
like this is what you need to do.
This is how we wipe. We're gonna wash our hands now. So she's kind of getting into the gist of it. She understands the mechanics of it now.
Yeah. But she's defiant, so she's just probably not doing it.
Yeah.
Is this where the wine comes in play?
Oh, yeah.
How did you meet your husband, by the way?
Huh?
How did you and your husband meet?
Oh, I met him at church, actually. I went to church and I saw this really hunky guy playing drums up on the stage.
And you're like,
and
that's the
thing
one
for drummers. I don't know what it is.
Especially church drummers.
Yeah. I actually had
I find that very attractive
an afro. He had he's Scottish and full Scottish, and he's got this dark Jon Snow hair.
Nice.
He had it kind of
sounds
an afro
familiar.
thing. Yeah. And he had this V-neck, and he was all hip and cool, and his little vintage boots, yeah. And I was done for. I saw him. I remember the first time I saw him, and I was like, I'm gonna marry that guy.
Oh, really? Wow.
And how long ago was that?
Yeah.
That was 7 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So did you go up and introduce yourself to him? Were you like, hey, I really like your music. Let's hang out.
He was also the youth pastor of the church, and he wasn't into me.
You're like,
it took a lot of coaxing. I had to really work hard.
Wow.
Wow.
which I find if you really work hard for something, then you appreciate it even more once you have it. You're
just have a vision board with his picture on it.
Every day you went to church looking like a 10. Okay, gotta get my hair done and
I did too. Yeah.
You joined the choir.
Yeah. Can't sing, but you're in the choir.
And what are the perks of having a husband that's a wine salesman?
What are the perks?
Yeah.
Oh,
Lots of wine.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm never out of alcohol in my house.
Yeah.
That's not.
And how was that
Never
during
had
your?
it.
How was that during your pregnancies? Was it tough? Always having like wine in the house and having him.
No, I mean, I would do, like, on occasion, I would do, like, just the little glass of, like, red wine every now and then. And because that really helped with, like, digestion and stuff like that. And I would get heartburn really bad. And so that kind of helped. But it was really weird because during my second pregnancy, I craved beer.
Oh, I heard of that. I heard of
have
that
heard of
being
that.
like a legit craving.
It was the wildest thing, and it was all I wanted, and it was so hard, and so he got me that, like, non-alcoholic beer, dual.
Oh, yeah.
I drank one of those when I was pregnant too.
I drank some of those too, like the new Budweiser.
The Prohibition Budweiser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and Clamato.
Oh, man. Saved me.
Now, being from Idaho, how do you like your potatoes? Do you like them fried? Do you like them roasted? Or do you like them in vodka?
I like them always.
Any form.
I mean, we even have, like, ice cream potatoes.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
So it is. I wasn't sure if it was like as big a thing as it is, but it's definitely a potato thing down in Idaho.
Well, and I guess, like, I don't know, we love our potatoes. I mean, I don't know if there's a day that goes by that we don't eat them, you know, and we do, like, curly fries and tater tots and garlic fries.
I need to
and,
move
like,
there.
I love fry. I love potatoes.
I'm a carbivore, so like,
So am I. Can we get back to that ice cream though? Like, okay, what is
It's
that?
potato ice cream.
What does that taste like?
No, it's not potato ice cream. We just have ice cream potatoes. So basically, they just take vanilla ice cream and they shape it like a potato, and then they roll it in cocoa powder.
Oh.
And then they do, like, whipped cream on top, like a little baked potato thing.
Ooh.
That sounds good.
That sounds really good.
I love how they came up with tater tots because they're like, oh, we need an excuse to have fries for breakfast.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna make them into tater tots and make them a breakfast
Or hash
item.
browns or whatever.
Yeah, or hash browns.
We do the same thing, the exact same thing, you know, like, put some tater tots in your scramble, your egg scramble.
I'm on a diet right now, so I'm just like, oh, these sound good. Let's
I'm
have
hungry
some
now, aren't I? I'm
potatoes.
so sorry.
It's okay.
So, back to your stories. Do you read to your little girls every night then?
No, I don't. And it's because, like, by bedtime, I'm just so done. Like, just so done.
Yeah.
I'm ready to sit and watch Netflix and have my wine and just not do anything until bed. And so that was also kind of part of it. Like,
Just put on the podcast.
yeah, well, and it's really difficult too, you know, when they start getting into school age, and so, you know, they come home, you make dinner, you, like, do schoolwork with them, you practice spelling, but then you're also cleaning up at the end of the day, and then you have to get the kids, like, ready for bed, and then you're gonna sit down and read a story, and
Right.
of course, like, with the amount of cooperation that I experience from the girls, that takes, like, half an hour to 40 minutes. And then, so I found that it's actually really nice because I have, like,
We'll have to cut it.
tap and walk away, and it's so nice.
Yeah, I know, like, my older sister, she has an older daughter, and, like, she spends so much time doing her homework. I can't believe how much homework they can get at, like, being 6 years old in grade 2.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And she finds it so hard, too. She's like, who has time to do this? Like, and she also is supposed to be doing 20 minutes of reading with her daughter every day. And
Every
she's
day,
like,
yeah.
I don't have time for this. So half the time she's just signing the bumper boards. Like, yeah, we did our 20 minutes of reading. And it's tough, though, right? Like, the time that you have by the time they get home from school and all the work that you have to do, like, yeah, to fit that in is just a lot, right? So.
Yeah, well, and it's just kind of a bummer because, you know, when the kids are home from school, you want to spend time doing fun stuff, and there's just not a lot of time for that, too.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I really need to ask you about your 7 years experience at the accounting firm. What were you doing there?
I called myself like the everything bagel. I start out in reception, but I've got like a learning curve that's like 90-degree angle. And so I started doing bookkeeping and payroll, and then I would do like tax processing with like the tax preparers. And then I would do like graphic design for the company. And I also was pretty good with like IT stuff. So I would do some IT things for them.
Yeah.
And then I also helped develop a payroll application, like an app and website for agriculture.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So.
I wasn't that busy at work. I was an admin for 6 years. But like touched on like the tax preparing and the reception and stuff like that. But Preston, mommy's coming. But yeah, I just stuck around because I loved my bosses and it was close to home. But when I look back at 6 years in a boring accounting firm.
Accountants are the worst.
Like, what was I thinking?
It's definitely not the job for me.
All of my coworkers were just so amazing and not your average accountants.
Oh,
but
that's
it was really
good.
funny because the owner, when he interviewed me, like, I was a theater major and I was like an event coordinator and I'd done all these things, and he straight up told me in the job interview, he was like, well, we don't really hire creative types around here.
Oh!
So I left thinking I didn't get it, but I did. I don't know how.
Well, good for him that he took the chance on a creative person, because it sounds like you did a lot for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I brought a lot to the table.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what do you do now for a career?
Well, it's kind of a weird thing. Right now I'm kind of doing like some ag consulting. So I bring up like non-immigrant workers from Mexico to work in agriculture.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
That's really neat.
And
It's not very exciting, but
do you do some like graphic design stuff still too? Because I've seen kind of mention of you putting kind of design suites together for people and.
Yeah, I've put together it was kind of weird. I got kind of roped into a bunch of different podcasters needing like branding kits and stuff like that. And yeah, I've done a lot of graphic design for like different companies, putting together their logos and stuff like that. So
you're still an everything bagel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still in everything bagel.
With some cream cheese on top.
Yeah. And now the podcast, when did you start it?
Oh, I started the podcast, let's see here. It's funny because I listened to podcasts about how to make podcasts for like 2 months before I ever like released it.
Yeah.
Because I have to make sure I'm doing everything just right. And so I think I released it October 24th was my first episode.
Okay.
I'm sorry, August 24th.
August. Okay, so a few months now.
Yeah, I think it's been just a little over 3 months now.
Awesome.
And then how did you find, how did the people find you? How are you advertising your podcast?
So I do like the usual social media stuff.
Yeah.
I don't do Twitter. I'm kind of garbage at Twitter.
Yeah, we're not
we
doing
don't
that
either.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband was just like, listen, if you don't know it, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I just do like Instagram and Facebook, and I think that's worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's nothing really exciting.
No. And what is your favorite episode that you have, other than the one that you wrote?
I think Peter Pan. Peter
Pan's a great story.
Yeah.
And it was my first episode, and I don't know. Yeah, I think Peter Pan. It's just such an adventurous story. And
That's actually the first one I listened to. Was Peter Pan.
Mine was The Frog Prince.
Oh.
Because that's like a classic story.
Yeah.
Frog Prince is my least favorite episode.
Why?
I liked it.
I was thinking about, I don't know, there's some like technical things. I'm sure it's not even noticeable to anybody, but there's just like some technical things. So I've been thinking about like going in and just tweaking a couple things.
Yeah. That's the nice thing. I guess you can go back and edit things and take things out or add stuff in.
Actually, that was one of my questions about the editing, because you have music playing in the back. So how do you edit that? Like, do you play
the music and talk over it, or do you add the music afterwards?
I add the music after.
Oh, okay.
I try to, sometimes if I have selected the song prior to recording the audio, I will put it in, like on my phone and put it in headphones so that while I talk, it's kind of to the rhythm of the music a little bit, like it meshes well.
And how do you find the music?
But yeah, basically I just record the story and edit out all my weird little mouth clicks. I never knew how much my mouth clicked until I had to edit my audio. There's just certain words that sound so strange and I just have to fix it and it just drives me crazy. And I take lots of breaths and there's a lot of like going on.
Oh, I say a lot.
I say like a lot.
I'm also a like girl.
I think if I didn't like script out everything, that would be my downfall as well. But so I spend probably 2 to 3 hours, sometimes more, on each episode, just editing out the weird sounds and making sure that the cadence is right, like in the rhythm of the story. And then after that, I will then put in some music to it.
And how do you pace? Like for myself, when I'm reading a story, I tend to like read it really fast. But yours goes at like a really good pace. So did you kind of just figure out like how to like read it so that people can, like, you take your time to like get through it all so people can understand it and it's soothing and
Yeah, well, I used to be a children's librarian, and so I did.
Of course you were.
That's perfect. Yeah, makes sense.
We're all like, add that one to the list.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in theater background, I had to learn to not like say lines too quickly and really pace myself and make sure that things are enunciated and all that stuff and very clear. But yeah, when I was a children's librarian, I would do story times and puppet shows and all this stuff. And so I got pretty good at storytelling doing that. And then, but honestly, when I'm reading the stories, sometimes if I'm feeling like I want the story to be over, I will kind of rush while recording. And the software has this lovely thing where I can change the speed of my reading by like 2 to 3% without it like affecting the sound of my voice too much. And so sometimes I'll do that. I'll just like slow it down like 2%, and that's just enough to make it sound really good.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, we might need that
I
app.
know, like in the future, a lot of people will probably start reading their children's books and then adding in like, and then everyone went to sleep and stayed asleep for the entire night. They did not wake up once to wake up Mom. And everyone lived happily ever after.
I have totally done a thing like reading a story, because of course kids pick like the big thick books that they want you to read, and I've noticed that my girls don't notice if I will just grab like a couple extra pages as I turn. Or like just change a couple lines, instead of like a paragraph, I'll like consolidate the idea of the paragraph down to like one sentence and then he went out and played with his friends.
Yeah, you take out all the descriptive words.
Do you girls have a favorite book?
Ooh, try to think. They love books so much. Right now my toddler has a Baby Shark book.
Oh yeah, Baby Shark. Oh.
That she's obsessed with, and it even like plays all the songs and stuff.
Oh no.
It really does. But my oldest one, she really loves it's a book called Lullaby for Little One. And my husband had actually bought it for her because it's about a daddy rabbit and a baby rabbit, and they go out and they have fun, and then the baby starts crying and it's time for bed because they were just having too much fun and now they need to go to sleep.
I know my favorite books as a kid were the ones that had like the little buttons where they prompt like a musical tune. So like as you're reading, it tells you to like press
a tractor noise, or
and that's the only way my parents could get me to like read a book, is if it had like some sort of like button or something like fun that popped out or played music, because otherwise I was like, books boring, like, I don't want to read them. But that's really great that your girls love books. And I guess you kind of have to get them started early, because the earlier you start them, the more that they like to read or look at books. And
if they think it's a chore or like homework or something like that, like, whereas if you start early, I think they just think it's part of your day, and like how you haven't like get to imagine things. And
I also think it helps too when you like, when you're reading a book and you do different character voices and you make it fun for them, which I find that like in your stories you do a really good job of. So that's nice.
Yeah, I try not to do it too much. I had to re-record the Pecos Bill episode completely over, because I had recorded it, and it's kind of like a Southern American story. And so it's a lot of like cowboys and stuff like that. And I got a little too cowboyish. It was a little atrocious.
Too much twang.
And like, yeehaw!
Yeah, like, hey, feller. I was listening to it and I was like, this isn't relaxing at all.
Oh, yeah.
Right now.
You're like all hyped up.
Yeah. That's what's so nice about your stories.
I barely added just a little bit of a cowboy twang, like just barely, because when I listened to it, the first time I listened to it, I was annoyed. And I was like, man, if I'm annoyed by this, everyone else will be too.
And like you said, you want it to be soothing, because the soothing type stories make your kids get into that mood where they're like ready for bed. When you're getting them all excited and hyped up, then getting them to sleep is a challenge, right?
Now,
it is, and I've heard that routines are really good for kids, you know, like trying like the hot bath and all that stuff before bedtime. That hasn't worked on my toddler. Bath time is like playtime, like just crazy
amps
time
her
for
up.
her.
That's the same with Preston, actually. It's like splash time when he goes in the bath, and it's just like water all over the place, and he's super hyped up, and it does not do what it's supposed to do at all.
Yeah, you even use like the lavender bath, so some lotions, and you think like, okay, time to sleep.
Yeah.
Every kid is different.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you're kind of like deep into the trenches, because you have like a 7-year-old and an almost 3-month-old or 3-year-old. If you were to think back at kind of where we're at, like with 6-month-olds and like we're brand new moms, what advice would you give to yourself? It's a pretty broad subject, I know, but
so many things.
Yeah. Drink the wine. All the wine.
Yeah, no, I did that. I took that advice great. Goodness, this is going to sound really bad, but I mean, I think that it's hard because both my girls were pretty easy babies. I think honestly, for me, my thing was like with my first child, I had all the baby stuff, you know, all the knickknacks and doodads and stuff like that. And honestly, it's just not necessary. You know, like the big baby registry, and you've got like this like changing table, and then you've got like this like boppy thing, and then you've got like the bouncer, and then you have like the bassinet, and then you have like, you know, just
so
all these
much
things.
stuff that everybody says you need.
Exactly. Everyone says you need it. And honestly, I think with my first one, it was like that boppy pillow served so many different uses.
The boppy pillow was the best. I used it all the time for Preston. It's like a big cushion.
Oh, okay.
And you can just lounge them in it. Yeah. He loved the boppy pillow.
Oh, yeah. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing. And I never, ever used a changing table. I never, ever, like, used, like the mommy clothes
Yeah.
that I had.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, whatever, I'll just use my own shirt.
Yeah.
I bought so many breastfeeding shirts and I ended up giving them away because I'm like, they're not flattering. They don't look great. And I'm like, it's just as easy just to lift my shirt up. And at that point, you kind of just don't care. You just, go ahead and lift up your shirt. I was so like, oh, I need to get the ones with the zippers so I can, take out. Yeah.
We're actually, that's an upcoming podcast we're going to do, is things like that we didn't really find was necessary that's on all the list, or the must-have things, or, buying things new versus buying them secondhand because they barely use them.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just, the thing is people tell you, and I think part of it is advertising too. Advertisers tell you, like, if you really care about your baby, then you'll give them the best. And you'll have this. And honestly, like, it really depends on the baby too. Like, my first one never took a pacifier. My second one did. I don't know. It just depends on the baby.
Right. Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's just, I would say find multiple uses for one thing. Like, if something serves more than one purpose, then it will bring value.
Right. That's great advice.
The things that just have the one use,
yeah, exactly.
Not worth it.
And then I wanted to know too, what was, I know you didn't really care for the baby stage. What, in your opinion, was your favorite stage of, like, maybe you at this point, maybe you can relate more to the 7-year-old because you've had more experience with her, more years, but.
Honestly, this is going to be so funny, but the toddler stage is my favorite.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite. You start getting to know your child at the toddler stage because they start talking, and they start having opinions, and they start having wants and desires, and they start realizing things are funny, and they start communicating that to you, and they start getting curious and adventurous, and it's just such a marvelous stage. And even with all the mess and the poop smeared on the floor that I have to clean up, and the chips strewn everywhere, and like, I just feel like I'm constantly cleaning my house every single day. But just those moments and the way in which they're able to, like, fully show affection, and the toddler stage is just incredible. It's incredible.
Do you have a lot of the tantrums? Do you deal with those well?
I deal with a lot of tantrums on my side. I have a lot of tantrums.
I'm just gonna lose it.
A little bit. There's not like a whole lot of like the throwing themselves on the floor, and it might be because I'm very, I don't know, I don't really put up with that kind of stuff. I'm just like, stop that. But I don't deal with a ton of tantrums. I do deal with a lot of just kids being extra.
Being extra.
Exactly, being extra. And it's not like they're really throwing tantrums. It's a kind of a difficult stage too, because you have to keep in mind that this is the age where they are starting to figure out that the world does not revolve around them. They're starting to come to the realization that they are not it, and there's actually kind of like an internal clash going on with them, which is why you get the tantrums, which is why you get the whining, and because they just don't understand it. They are not of the mental maturity to really grasp that. And so I have to keep myself in check a lot. Like, they're not just being like a big turd just for the sake of being a big turd.
Right.
They're just struggling. Because
highly emotional, and they don't know how to.
Yeah, exactly. It's emotional for them. It's hard.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
That's really great that, like, you're able to just understand that, like, they just don't know how to deal with their emotions right now. It's not like they're trying to be a difficult child.
Yeah.
They're just struggling dealing with those emotions, and
it's our job to kind of get them through that. Yeah,
and even with saying that, like I said, like, I have to keep myself in check all the time, because it is so easy to fly off the handle when, you turn your back for like 2 seconds and they pour water on your new laptop, or they have gotten into, flour and put it all over your house, or they took a Sharpie to the hardwood floors. It's so easy to fly off the handle. And sometimes I do, and I yell and I get mad, and then you have to apologize because you shouldn't have flown off the handle. You shouldn't have yelled. You should, like, it always ends in hugs, and it's just kind of a hard time, but I think it's also a really beautiful time for growth as parents and as children.
Yeah.
In that.
You really learn your patience level. And to like take a step back and be like, okay, is this really that big of a deal?
Yeah.
Is it something we can clean up? Yes. It's okay, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of making sure that you're in the moment and taking a deep breath and sometimes putting yourself in timeout.
Count to 10. Take 10 deep breaths.
Well, I guess all the babies are sleeping and your toddler's still napping, it sounds like. So maybe we'll wrap up so we get a couple minutes of peace and quiet before they all rage again.
Yes.
We really want to thank you for joining us. You're our first remote guest, and I think it went well. We'll wait till we play it back. Our audience can find you on social media, Instagram at at Dreamful Podcast. We'll put the actual handle in our notes as well. And you're on all of the podcast platforms, I believe, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
Google,
Stitcher, Google, Overcast,
awesome,
iHeartRadio, all that stuff.
And it's Friday. Do you release every Friday?
I do every other Friday.
Every other Friday. So next Friday, what is your story going to be about?
Velveteen Rabbit.
Oh yes, awesome.
Yeah,
We're looking forward to that one.
one.
Well, thank you again. We're looking forward to listening to you and introducing your stories more to our children as they get older. And you can find us on all of the podcast platforms as well. And we're at The Real Mom Gang on Instagram. And we will chat with everybody next week again. Yeah. So thank you very much, Jordan and Dreamful Podcast. And we hope everybody goes and listens to Jordan's stories because they are so good and so soothing. So
great way to fall asleep.
Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye.